Past players, past legends, past legends.
So, again, Keith, I forget who he played on, Victorian full forward, and did a really good job, which got him over the line in the All-Australian side. And Cornsey in '79 had come back.
Yes,
I reckon from North Melbourne.
He had a point to prove, and he did it.
And he won the Tassie medal.
So
that was fantastic. So,
And then
so some really good memories of state footy.
Absolutely.
Love playing, and I got to know players from the opposition, and they have remained mates over the years. A guy like Rick Davies, Blighty, I roomed with 1 year. I asked him to go outside to have his cigarettes, but he didn't always oblige. But
Well, Barmy picked Blighty to set Blighty as things, so he wanted a drinking partner. He knew that Blighty had fulfilled that role well as well.
Have a drink and a smoke.
Yeah.
Mate, 1983, you're announced as Glenelg captain. Just some memories on that, mate.
Oh, huge thrill. Obviously Graham Campbell came to the club in '83, and John Halbert moved back to Sturt. And it was, I had a lot of time for Graham. It was his decision to make me captain, which was great. What I do remember is my first 6 games were dreadful as captain. I thought, God, what's going on? And I've passed this on to all the Glenelg captains now. Don't focus on everyone else. Focus on your own game. How you play is going to dictate to how the players around you are going to play. So, and I think I just worried. I think we lost our first 6 games. Graham Campbell got the sack. And then got reinstated. So it was a dreadful period for me as captain, and obviously for Graham Campbell as coach, and the team was going very poorly. So I think it was a game against Centrals that I finally got some kicks, and we turned the season around, and we could have made the final 5 with a couple of weeks to go, but Westies thrashed us in the last game of the year, so any chance of making the finals were gone. And they went on to win the premiership that year. So it was a tough first year as captain.
What's your memories there when Graham, because it wasn't about round 8 where Graham was sacked and then players virtually, well, hang on, no, it's us, and reinstated. Yeah. So a pretty incredible, you're right, pretty incredible induction as captain, but a remarkable year really in Glenelg's history.
And I guess that the board would say it was not necessarily only the players. There was quite a bit of supporter feedback to the board too that wasn't the right way to treat Graham Campbell, whether he was the right coach or not coach. The club had made a decision, and they needed to stick by that decision. And as I said, we turned things around later in '83. And then '84 came, and we had a pretty reasonable year in '84. I still laugh now at getting 2 games for attempting to strike. And now you wouldn't even be reported. You'd probably pay a fine for missing. I think it's just it was ridiculous at that time. But it was we played Centrals. There's 4 guys reported, me from Glenelg and 3 Centrals guys.
Hannon. Trying to remember what else.
Thomas, I think.
I reckon Jamie did.
And one I can't remember who the other one was.
I've got to be honest, Super. That night I was working at Woodlands Indoor Sports Centre, and I may have had the radio next to me to listen to the tribunal results, that came through, and there may have been a punch of the air that thinking, I reckon we're right in this now. I feel sorry for Peter, but I'm thinking then
3 Central players missed out. On you played Nord the following week because we beat Centrals. And 3, their captain, I think it was Jamie.
I think Jamie was. I'll chase that up with Jamie.
There was, might be someone, was a Pryor playing as well? I can't remember, but there was 3 reports.
Pryor played against us because Pryor stood Neville the next week.
Yeah, okay. There was 3 guys, Central's guys reported they all got weeks. I think Hannon got 2 like I did. I think his charge was attempted to strike, but it was a particularly nasty game, and there would have been a lot more reports if TV reporting had have gone on there. There was, and that's what I think the SANFL made a decision that they were going to jump on these guys. And make them pay for whatever they did do or didn't do, and try and stamp out that violence in the games that we saw during some of those periods. There was some pretty nasty, ugly finals in those days.
You took the words out of my mouth there about video tribunal. How many umpires were reporting you for attempted striking? That's probably where it gets down to. Like, how do you? I'm sitting here in bewilderment at the moment trying to work that out.
You wouldn't believe it now how you get reported for attempting to strike.
Yeah,
so,
it's just be a fine if that.
And Graham Campbell still blames that report on his coaching career. Like he still thinks he suffered, and whether that's right or wrong, we'll never know. But it did give Nord an easier passage against Centrals, and probably I think Adam Garden had to do the rucking. We didn't really have a second ruck in '84, so Gart's got thrown on the ball and did a pretty reasonable job, I thought, but took him away from the forward line.
Nord was 17 points down at the 20-minute mark against Centrals and won. And then the prelim final was a bizarre game because at one stage, Glenelg were 2-14. So
we 2-14.
Yeah, at one stage.
Got a good memory. I can't remember that.
Then you kicked a few after that, but
it was pretty close at during the third quarter, if my memory serves.
And then Michael Aish took over a bit, and Neville kicked a couple and got us home. And then, of course, the '84 grand final. Yeah, okay, let's be honest, biased Nord here, but that's the other grand final. For mine, it's 73 and '84. 73, I'm saying, as a neutral, was unbelievable. As a kid, 21 goals to 19, everything in it, the heat, incredible. And then 84 was just a slog as well with both sides, 15 goals to 14. It was a great game as well.
And coming from fifth, was a remarkable effort. I think I was asked to do some comments, and I might have, I forget what year it was, and I made some comment. I think was Hammond coaching then, or was Hammond?
No,
Barmy was 84.
Yep.
So it must have been previously. So I'd made some comment in the ad, which Mike Coward interviewed me, and I said something like, Nord were fairly lucky to make the finals this year, and Bob Hammond had a crack at me about it. I thought, oh God, got to be careful what you say publicly, don't you?
Yeah, no,
Well, '84 they were a little slow to get going, but once they did get going, it was
we came from fifth fifth spot. So from fourth. So we came from the elimination final. Beat South Adelaide pretty easily in the elimination, but then every other final could have gone either way.
Absolutely.
You've got a remarkable memory for Nord facts, haven't you?
Probably not too bad on all there. So
No,
I might be better on Nord, but I'm still not too bad on the. I tell you one thing though, Super, I've got a reasonable memory, but geez, I am absolutely Z grade compared to Wally Miller. I asked Wally.
Was he good? Was he?
I've asked Wally a question. He's just gone 13th of August 1958, and I've gone, come on, Wally, at least give us the time of day as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Now, before we move on to obviously 85, 86, mate, some of the crowds back in the day, we've talked to some of our previous guests about in how, it was the halcyon days of SANFL football, but your thoughts as a young fella starting out and some of the crowds that were turning out, and then obviously leading up to some of your success there.
Yeah, it was a fantastic. I feel very fortunate to have played in the golden era of SANFL footy. 70s and 80s will never be repeated. Fabulous in the crowds. I think I played in front of 25,000 at Albert in one day. It was 15,000 at Glenelg one day. I don't know how you can fit 15,000 into Glenelg Oval, but so there was and regularly there was over 40,000 going to the
every week.
5 games, every week. So an average of 8,000 at every game, which was just remarkable.
Oh, and
it was great footy and a great time, and as I said, I felt very privileged to be part of those 70s and 80s.
Oh, it was. It's just incredible in terms of, it was the main 4 in terms of the crowd pullers, Port, Sturt, Nord and Glenelg, but back then, but variably if one of those, that matchup, 12 was almost a disappointing crowd, and it was, were in, yes, I've been in Glenelg with 15,000 and don't dare move, and the same thing, 20,000 at Nord where, Mum, right, go to the toilet beforehand and then bang. Yeah. And it was bang, you got in there and that was it. You didn't move.
Yeah, didn't move. You couldn't move.
Where now you can't do that under health and safety. All that side of things.
Yep.
So, Peter, when did you nearly go to St Kilda? And go through that story, mate.
Oh, well, it was Melbourne before St Kilda.
Right,
I actually signed with Melbourne, I think in 1974.
Right.
They showed an interest after the grand final, and Jim Cardwell, who was the, I don't know what they called them there, secretaries or general managers, I'm not sure. So they made an approach, and I did look at going, I think it was 1975. I'd actually enrolled in university over there, so it was my intention to go, but Melbourne had made an offer, and Glenelg actually beat the offer. So I said to Melbourne, sorry, I'm staying at Glenelg. They've made a better offer than you've made. And Jim Cardwell said, we can improve our offer. I said, sorry, Jim, you're too late. I'm staying at Glenelg. So Melbourne had a couple of tries. Ian Ridley was the coach when I was first approached. And then Bob Skilton had a try at one stage, and then what happened is Mike Patterson got appointed coach of St Kilda, and he was keen to get me over to St Kilda, so I did go over and train a couple of times. Met Lindsay Fox in his office on St Kilda Road or somewhere. He threw some cash in front of me that thought would entice me to go and play footy there. But I was more interested in how the team was performing, and St Kilda weren't going particularly well then. So, but my Form 4 got swapped when Carl Dittrich went from St Kilda to Melbourne. My Form 4 must have been part of the deal, went from Melbourne to St Kilda. But
geez, legally you couldn't do that nowadays. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. But anyway, it didn't happen. I did train over there a couple of times, but they didn't really impress me as a club going anywhere at that stage. So decided to stay at Glenelg, and Glenelg have been absolutely wonderful to me over a long period of time. So I don't regret not going.
There's still so many Victorians who just still have no idea how strong the competition was. And Craigie was exactly the same. Craigie got numerous bit, and he went, well, no, I can play state footy. I'm on just as much back here, settled, exactly. and the footy's just as good. So I'll play, I can prove myself at state level, etc. And, there was so many like that,
And only really started to change dramatically in sort of early to mid 80s.
Yes.
I think, I certainly, Woodville, Blight, Huppets and McKellar all went in the 70s, but they were playing for a club that had no money and finishing close to the bottom. So I was lucky enough to be playing at Glenelg. We were winning more than we were losing, and Nord was the same. They didn't lose any players, and Port were the same. They didn't really lose any players until Russell had 1 year. Russell had 1 year over there. I think Davies had 1 year. They all just had a sniff and came back again. They all went far too late in their careers. They were a bit old. So, and it only changed when the Plattons and
Kernahan, Motley,
and Bradley, Motley, and those guys started going. So, and there had become quite a difference in the financial rewards then. during those mid '80s.
Can I ask about '85? Was it true, the rumour that Jack Elliott had sort of wanted to recruit some of the Carlton faithful, I suppose, from Glenelg, and he basically tipped in a few dollars to keep the players there for one more year, so that way Glenelg got a premiership under their table?
Jack Elliott had.
I reckon that might be fancy.
I think that's a rumour.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah. I do, like Stephen had more or less made a commitment, probably more to himself than anyone else, that he wanted to play in a Glenelg premiership before he went. And now, if we hadn't have won in '85, I'm not sure what would have happened. It made him, it made it easier for him to go. He may have still gone. He was driving a very nice blue Commodore around that. In '85 that Carlton managed to gift him. So I think he was always going to Carlton. The actual timing, he had stated depended on us winning a premiership. So
I think that's where the story might have come from.
Oh, absolutely. And Carlton were looking after him from, for a couple of years before he left, there's no doubt.
Oh, don't worry. Actually did all right with his yellow Celica from Richmond when he never went either.
I think I had a Hillman Hunter from my Form 4 payment, 1954.
And so, let's go through the two Helicon years there. So, the return of the prodigal son in terms of Cornsey, which that could have been I imagine that would have had its moments playing under Graham.
Well, it's different for me than for a lot of other players. I'd played with him for 13 years. I knew him very well, obviously.
Yeah. Did that provide, that he's a teammate, suddenly bang the coach and all that?
Yeah, look, we probably had our moments, not on the field or at training or whatever, but, we didn't always agree on everything. One of the things he did try and do was try and get me to training on time. So, unbeknownst to me, he'd gone to my boss
at
Coca-Cola, at Coke, and said to my boss, "Can he get to training half an hour early?" And my boss said, "Entirely up to him. He can go when he feels he needs to go." Which I didn't know this conversation had gone on. So I used to rock up. Our reps used to come. I was the sales manager at one of the divisions there, and our reps didn't come back from on the road until after 4. So they had questions and needed to be organised, and I'd try and get away, around 5 or a bit before 5 if I could. But my biggest priority was to make sure the reps were in a good place. So Cornsey had kept the players back from going out in the training track until I got there on a couple of occasions. And the players thought that was not a smart thing to do. And Cornsey gave up after a while. And then I found out he had spoken to my boss. And my boss said exactly what he thought, like it was up to me. And I was 29 years old, wanting to get a career going, because I'd had a number of different jobs when I was younger, and Coke was for me was going to be my career, and I was going to try and put my best foot forward at Coke. So if that meant getting to training late, that was sort of bad luck. So so Corns and I had a bit of a battle over that.
And of course, those 2 years though, just remarkable, and
in '85, I said this to Cornsey, I reckon you've taken over a pretty talented side, Graham. And, with Kernahan and McGuinness and McDermott. I think we had 14 players in that side that went on to play VFL, AFL footy. And that didn't include me, because I didn't ever play. Wayne Stringer didn't go in. And Alan Stringer, state player. And so there was a number of players in there that possibly could have played VFL, AFL footy that didn't. So that side was incredibly strong in '85. in 86, without Kernahan and McGuinness, two significant players, we weren't quite the side as we were in 85, so we had to work a fair bit harder. And I think Cornsey had to work a fair bit harder in 86. So, I give him enormous credit for, we hadn't won a lot of premierships, so he doubled our premierships in 2 years.
And of course, that 85 grand final, North Adelaide started really well, and David Robertson went for a bounce and stuffed up the bounce, and that went him streaming right forward. So just showing my memories, not only Nord, Super.
No, that's true.
And that was a vital moment. Yeah. And that
was an interesting one.
I'm just looking at this side from 85 right now. I've just pulled it up, but that is star-studded.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a fantastic side.
Yeah. And that was the strength of SNFL footy,
Oh, it was. There was a lot of strong sides around. Like you look at Norwood, Sturt, Port, they all had. North had emerging talent, probably. They were a bit of, you had the Jarmans coming through and some of those guys that were still pretty young in 85. And they were getting better. And they certainly got us in 87, there's no doubt.
What are your memories of a young Chris McDermott, obviously being in that 85 premiership side, but just prior to that, obviously him coming in as a young fella?
Oh, he was outstanding. He came in with Stephen Kernahan. I think they, I think Kernahan had 41, he had 42. They started in those jumpers, and they were great young kids. I loved, I think Stephen Kernahan's probably the best player I've seen play at Glenelg. Bone was one of the toughest, hardest footballers that I've seen play at Glenelg. You always see packs, and the last person out of standing up out of a pack would have been Chris McDermott. And Malcolm, you'd probably say it was Gary McIntosh at Nord, but that's the sort of player he was. He was just absolutely out the footy. Was my vice captain, took over as vice captain after Stephen left in 86. He was my vice captain for the last 3 years of my career, and I couldn't speak highly enough. He was a great player, a great bloke, and absolutely dedicated to the Glenelg Footy Club.
The thing about Bone is he got absolutely everything out of himself. I've always said I still think he was a more talented cricketer than he was footballer.
But he worked harder at football.
He's the best junior keeper I've ever seen. So he was South Australian junior keeper. Now, Sticks played in that side as well, and he bowled like Froggy Thompson off the wrong foot. Because we're the same age, so played school footy against both. We actually beat Nord High. We had John Hall and Michael Palm, and we beat Brighton with McDermott and Kernahan playing. Sticks kicked 7 and we won. So
that's a good effort.
And that was under 13 game. So back memories there.
Yeah, winding back the clock on that one.
So in terms of then, in 85, 86, so probably a little bit disappointed with 87, and then we go through, of course, the famous grand final and Cornsey's speech afterwards against Port Adelaide. And what's all your memories there, Super?
It's not that great.
Yes.
It's again, 87 North were better prepared for that grand final than we were. 88, would have been I'd already made my decision that I was going to retire at the end of 88. Hadn't told the players or whatever. I think it was more important to focus on the game at hand. Right. And Port were too good for us. So, I still think you have a look at it. The fact that we played 4 grand finals in a row, and we were losing players to the AFL or VFL every year. You look at our side.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe.